for any members of the public that are out there that are not aware, Meridian Cares has existed for well over 40 years to help residents of Meridian Township to make sure that they don't kind of fall through the cracks, to make sure that people don't end up hungry or on the street. Most of what we end up helping out with is evictions and utility assistance up to this point. I think this program is very unique to this community. It shows a certain amount of empathy on behalf of the public. And I've never known another community to have this kind of program. Now, that said, when the stay-at-home order was issued, I will be the first to admit that I was super nervous, and I had this ominous feeling that there was going to be like a tidal wave of need. So far, to my great surprise, I have not seen that. It actually is likely due to a number of factors. For one thing, this economic stimulus hit. There's higher amounts people receive in unemployment. There's a moratorium on evictions. There's a reprieve from utility shutoffs. And people who receive food assistance from the state now receive a greater allocation generally. So I think that's provided a lot of economic relief up to this point. The moratorium on evictions lasts for another few weeks. That makes me a bit nervous. Most of the people that I've talked to for the last 6 weeks were not aware that they qualified for a lot of these programs, or they didn't know how to access them. So part of the problem is we know that there's a lot of unemployment. We know that some of that unemployment is going to last into the future. I've looked at economic forecasts and they're kind of all over the board. Some of the ones that I was reading from as early as March anticipated that up to 400,000 people from Michigan would be unemployed. Well, we now know that that is horrifically low, that now it's 1.7 million people. So it's a little difficult to try to say exactly what the need is going to be. We do know that the restaurant and entertainment industry, they're predicting, will be the slowest to rebound. And unfortunately, women have been hit harder than men as far as unemployment is concerned, which does not bode well for single parent households since they generally are headed by women. So historically, what we have done is we have had people call to access Meridian Cares, and we try to get them into mainstream resources, get them into whatever they may qualify for. And if that doesn't work, then we use funding that's generally been privately raised to assist them. They've only been assisted once per year generally. With massive unemployment that's been going on for this long, we're likely going to have more people that need assistance, and they're going to need assistance more than once. We're going to need to create a new model. So since mid-March, since the stay-at-home order was issued, we have raised about $14,500. That, based on all the information that we have, will likely not be enough. Historically, Meridian Cares has spent between $10,000 and $12,000 a year, although last year it was much closer to $17,000. But that was serving people that had relatively low expenses and with a pretty tight labor market and a low unemployment rate. With people unable to return to work quickly, those costs are going to go up, especially when we take into consideration the fact that, it's now May 19th. The courts haven't been in session since March. And when they reopen in June, we have the potential to see rent bills that are thousands and thousands of dollars. That is very disconcerting to me. Most of the households that I generally have talked to in the past have lived paycheck to paycheck, and they were kind of used to these kind of scenarios. What I've been seeing a little bit more are people who have greater expenses that aren't used to this system, that kind of need a little bit of walking through how to get assistance. And it's quite possible we're going to see different expenses that people need assistance with, whether it's mortgage payments, cell phone payments, childcare, and they're overall more expensive. So I think some of the biggest variables that we have at this point is the length of time that we're in the stay-at-home order, how long the virus lasts, if there are secondary waves, the potential of another federal stimulus, what happens at MSU, whether they have funding cuts or whether they go to online classes, any federal or state funding for other human service programs, and of course, consumer confidence. Now, we are trying our best to be prepared for whatever lies ahead for us, but at this point, it's extremely difficult. So unfortunately, that is where everything has been for my office for the last 6 to 8 weeks.